Hey guys, yo, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Jump Inside podcast, or as I like to call it, the Jumpcast. And as always, I'm joined by my two favorite YouTube friends that also have very highly opinionated opinions on video games. I'm joined by Blue Fox and Camazoid.
Hello, hello.
Hey, it's always a pleasant to be here.
And we're going to be talking about something quite interesting today, and if you've read the title, you already know what it is. But yes, what we're going to be talking about is video game adaptations that get turned into TV series, movies, animes, all that kind of stuff. How does that look? And what is that all about? So what we'll do is we'll go over a few things. So Blue Fox has done some preparation here. He's got some TV series that he's chosen that have already been turned into TV series and movies and all that kind of stuff. But also at the same time, he's also got some examples of things that wouldn't be good. So do you want to go over them quickly?
Yes, in this podcast I will bring the examples of Mario and Sonic, which had movie adaptations, and they took different routes to make these movie adaptations, and to some aspects it works, and with others they don't. But I mean, in general, they're good examples, and along the way there are games that I would like to see adapted, like BioShock, which is announced to be adapted as a TV series by Netflix, and there are some games which I think shouldn't get a TV or movie adaptation, but I'll discuss those later.
Yeah, I like the fact that you've brought up Sonic particularly. Because Sonic's been done quite a few times. Like, it's done it in anime, it's been a game, it's been a movie. Sonic's been on different types of platforms. I think what proves is that Sonic can just do anything he likes. And I think we'll have a deep dive talk at some point of why Sonic's so versatile into different areas and how he just works. I don't know why, but we'll have a discussion about that. Then we've got Camazoid. Camazoid has brought along some games along. Camazoid, do you want to go over some of your games that you've thought of?
Yep, I brought along some games that I see they can work as some as movies and some as TV series. I brought Ghost of Tsushima, Pledge Tale, and a very well-known indie game. There's also Red Dead Redemption that I do believe can have a very well-made TV series, but I do need to further discuss about that. And finally, there's also God of War. Now, God of War had originally there is an announcement for a TV series, but I have some speculations on that, and I do have an idea that it could be better for the God of War TV series. So those are all the games that I have.
And I'll just wrap that back around to me as well, because I will mention that I've spotted this trend hype up a little bit as of late, because I think we've had quite a few things. For example, we've had Lara Croft got turned into a movie. She was originally a game. We've had Hitman that's turned into a movie. That was a game that got turned into a movie. I won't say it's a very good one, but it's one. It exists. It's a thing in this world. But then you've got some of late that are just, getting into the industry, and you've got things like Assassin's Creed that not so long ago got turned into a movie. And we've got The Last of Us that got turned into a series. And as of this month, we've also had Fallout that has got turned into a series. So as much as it's not a very common thing of what it used to be, but now it's becoming more and more common, and I think it's time to have a discussion with these people that are making these things and just go, hey, this is our thoughts on it and what we think about the directions that you should take. So, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be having a chat about that. So, between the three of us, we'll begin, and we've got some questions that we've got planned out. However, do be prepared. We might go off these questions and we might just go on our own tangent because we do that. So let's get started. So the first question is, can you name a video game that you believe that would translate well into a movie format, and why? Starting off with Camazoid.
Well, I do believe a game that can very well be turned into a movie. For this one is Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is kind of like a historical game. Its story is it's I think it's real and it's based on Japan, a historical event that happened in Japan, the Mongolian invasion. The story is not very long, as well as very simple to understand and very well made. I do believe it can be turned into a movie. Very simple, not very long. Well, of course they have to remove some of the story aspects that can kind of like ruin the movie in terms of pacing. So the story is very simple about revenge and about the main character not disobeying his let's say his father figure, I would say, and not being loyal to the samurai code and basically giving away his honor and trying out these unhonorable tactics to defeat the Mongolian invasion. The story is quite simple, and I think it can be turned into a movie, kind of like an hour and 15-minute movie. So yeah, I do believe that the Ghost of Tsushima is a video game that can be turned into a solid, well-made movie if they, of course, focus on the most important aspects of the story and try to remove some of the elements that can ruin it as a movie, because some elements are well more specific for a game and it cannot work well for a movie. So that's the game that I do believe it can work as a movie format.
Yeah, I can see that being like very dramatic in that kind of aspect. Sorry, I'm just going to carry on with that question. I'm just going to extend it a little bit. So, being it turned into a movie, awesome. But if you had to turn Ghost of Tsushima into a movie, would you say it would work better as an anime movie or a IRL action graphic up type movie? What like, because like anime's got its own unique aspects of this, where as a real life thing doesn't. So it's like, what are your thoughts between anime and normal live action stuff?
I think for Ghost of Tsushima, I think it will work better as an real life movie, not as an anime. Basically, because the game itself feels more real. It doesn't it doesn't go. It's basically it has a lot of real aspects. It doesn't go too far fetched behind. Like, for example, take God of War with some magic spells or any of that. But on the other hand, Ghost of Tsushima feels like a real game. Events that happen that are basically too real, and I feel like it'll be better off as in real life movie, better than an animated movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do keep in mind that the Cyberpunk got an anime version for Netflix, right? So it's and also Cyberpunk is quite realistic, so it's not impossible to say to convert the realistic graphics that a game can have into a Japanese or Western animation. But yeah, I fully understand the point of taking the beauty of Ghost of Tsushima, which is a very photorealistic game, and transforming that into a movie or a series rather than to animate it, because then you're changing the style. You're making something that is photorealistic into a drawing, which, again, they have different appeals of beauty, but they are different nonetheless.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, then let's propose the same question to you, Blue Fox. What games do you think would then be turned into a movie?
Well, the game that I have brought at the introduction, which is Bioshock. Both the first and Bioshock Infinite could work. I would say Bioshock Infinite is a little bit more known, a little bit more mainstream, and I think that's the game that they're making a TV series about, which we know very little of, but I believe they're taking that route rather than the first Bioshock. But still, both could work. They have a strong narrative aspect in the game, and the games have a somewhat linear story, so it's not because games that have many alternatives, quests and mainline stories cannot be adapted too well into movies, because then you only have to adapt to one version. So if you make a movie of Skyrim, then yeah, my Skyrim character has done something that yours has not. So how do you deal with that? So with the Fallout series, they were able to do it, but it's a bit of a gamble. Meanwhile, for games like The Last of Us, which have a linear story, made it happen quite nicely. Same goes with Bioshock, or at least hopefully.
All right. Okay. Right. Okay. I've been writing down some of these movie adaptations as we've been talking, which I'll go into in a bit. I didn't know Cyberpunk was getting turned into did you say Netflix series or movie?
Yeah, it's an anime.
It's an anime. Is it actually on active right now, or is it like?
Yeah, it's been released like months ago.
I have no idea. That would pass me by. I'll have to check that
Released
one out.
last
Is it
year.
good?
I think it was released last year around October, November, something like that. Because I do remember a lot of people talking about it.
So here are some of the modern ones currently that we've got on list right now that I've been taking notes of, according to what we've been mentioning. So we've got Halo, that's been turned into a series. The Last of Us, Cyberpunk, Fallout, and I think Lara Croft is coming out. I'm not. That's what I believe. I think there's some others.
Yeah, there are also others. There's for let's say anime. There's I think the Castlevania anime based on the Castlevania games. There's also the now being worked on the Devil May Cry anime coming out later this year, I think. So there are other things, yeah.
The Arcane, which is not anime per se, but it's still animation from League of Legends, and Cuphead, which is 20s style animation, but still a animation nonetheless. I have the feeling that most not most games are made into animation, but a good chunk, a bit of a 50-50.
Okay, yeah. Right. So I've got a question written down here, which is the next question that we'll lead into. And it says, and this is the one I'm going to pass over to you, Blue Foxes, just so you're prepared. How important is it for a video game adaptation to stay faithful to the source material? But I just also want to expand on that for one extra bit of question. Is it important for the game franchise themselves, or the TV adaptations that are working on the adaptations of that TV series? Is it important for them to get the game creators or the developers that came up with that in the first place involved inside the series?
It's a very big question to ask, because there are two of them.
Yeah.
But to answer the first half of the question, it depends, because both style can work. That's why I brought the examples of Mario and Sonic, because they answer this question in different ways. In the case of Super Mario, the movie that was released last year, the movie tries to be a little bit linked with the games, with the whole Mushroom Kingdom and Mario that goes there and saves the princess and fight Bowser's. It's let's say it feels familiar. It's also animated in a very Nintendo-looking style. While the Sonic movie takes a whole different route. It takes a whole different universe. There is new characters, new people set in Los Angeles, I think, or in San Francisco. It's different enemies. I mean, sure, there is Eggman, but it's not the Eggman from the video game. So that movie is quite different. If you see the Sonic movie and then you play the video games, you would not feel the link. You would almost feel like it's two different whole worlds, even with the same blue hedgehog. So but they both work. They're both good movies, which had their decent success. I mean, the Sonic movie even had a sequel, which I think it was perhaps even better than the first movie. And the Mario movie will definitely get a sequel after the huge success that it had last holidays. So it doesn't need to be faithful as long as it works. Then again, it depends, because if you're making a movie that you want to retell a story that was already told, then yes, you have to be faithful, because otherwise the people who have played the video game might say, hey, this is different. Why the character that I always thought it was like this and I always saw acting in this way is suddenly acting in this other way? Then there's a bit of an incongruence. There's a little bit of a disconnect. And disconnect is usually the thing that makes bad TV movie adaptations, like The Witcher, which was a bit criticized for this factor, because the fans of the series felt a little bit cheated. But on the other hand, doing the opposite, it's a bit of a gamble as well, because if you make it too different and too similar and one by one, then what's the point of the TV series if you already played the game? Right? I mean, why would I watch the BioShock Infinite Netflix series if it's just gonna be a sequence of cutscenes I already seen, but together? I mean, at that point, I just play the game again, right? So it's there are risks with both ways of readaptation. So yeah, for that reason, I have to answer. It depends. I forgot the second question.
Is it important for like to get the developers of the original game involved into the series?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say they don't have to be involved through the entirety process. I mean, they don't have to make the movie themselves, but they do have to be involved.
They have
Because
to.
otherwise, the way you play a game and the way I play a game is different. So the things that a studio may understand about a video game can be different from the actual people who play that video game and the people who actually develop the video game. So again, it goes with the same discussion before. If there's a disconnect between, this is the movie adaptation of a video game, but the video game feels different, doesn't need to be, again, the same story, but if it has a different feeling, then you're missing out. And I think the best people who can transcribe the feeling into a movie, can describe how a feeling of a video game can be translated into a movie, is the people who made the video game in the first place. So yes, they have to be involved.
I quite like certain things about, and you'll I like hints. I like little drop hints from like when you've played a game and you know certain things about that game. Yeah. When they make a series about it, when they drop those little tiny bits of fan service, it just makes you feel happy that you've been faithful to that material that you've been working with. Like, for example, I'd say there's a part in like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 where you see Knuckles and you see Sonic in the same area at the same time. You're like, it's Knuckles. And you just recognize that attitude that Knuckles has that's so familiar, because it's Knuckles. You know who Knuckles is. You've been playing Knuckles for so long, and finally they reward you by going, "Oh yeah, Knuckles is in this." I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." And it's those little hints like of having rings. You know about the rings when you go through that whole all through the levels and you're collecting all those rings. You start realizing, oh, okay, that they've put the rings in here. That's cool. They've included things from the game. They've included little snippets here and there. I like that.
Yeah, I always love when they do stuff like that touches the people who played and know the video games. Like, take for example, one of my absolutely favorite moments in the Super Mario movie that absolutely broke me was the moment when was on the Rainbow Road race. I didn't enjoy a lot of that portion because my only problem with the Super Mario movie was it had a lot of stuff in it when it should have just focused on 2 or 3 things, but it just added so much into it that some things felt unnecessary. But one of my favorite moments was on the Rainbow Road when the Koopa lost his ride and then turned into a blue shell and hit Mario. I laughed so hard in that, and that was so beautiful because every single person who played Mario Kart knows the absolute horror of a blue shell. And when they put that in the movie, that's basically one of my favorite moments in the movie, and I believe it made a lot of people laugh. And for those who played the Mario Kart games, loved that moment a lot.
This is such a small thing, but I've watched the Fallout series, and one of the bits in the Fallout series, the Fallout series that's on Prime, one of the tiny little bits in the Fallout series is one of my favorite. It's so small, but it's just one of my favorite bits. When someone's injured, and one of the characters goes off to get a med kit, and you already realize of what that person searched for inside the med kit, and you start working. She's gonna get a stim pack from the med kit, and she goes and she gets a stim pack from the med kit, and you feel so well rewarded for knowing so much about the game and just knowing that obviously what she's going to do. It feels fan servicey. It feels like there are things using from the source material, and I just like that. There's little snippets. Sorry, were you saying something, Blue Fox? Sorry.
I mean, it is fan service. I mean,
It is.
It is made exactly
It'll-
for the fans, because for people who have not played, in the case you've mentioned now, Fallout, then yes, for them the steampunk means nothing. They say, oh, they pick the tool that makes the person feel healthier. But for people who have played the video game, they say, hey, I recognize that, right? You make a connection with the video game. Sometimes this can be a little bit obnoxious if it's done too much, too often, because you don't want to exclude the people who have not played the video game, or at the very least are not that much familiar with the video game. So if you insert very very hidden references, but that are important to explain a part of the story, and you don't explain it, but you just say, oh, it's a reference for, do you remember that one part of Fallout Tactics you have not played? Aha, this is a main key event for the plot. Then you say, okay, but I have not played that game, so what does it mean? What's the reference, right? You cannot base your narration on references, but it's nice to have them every once in a while.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Right, moving on to the next question. Should you use characters? I'm going to go to a Camazoid for this one. Should you use characters from a game franchise to use in the movie or TV series, or anime for that example?
For this, I think it totally depends on the chosen game or that's gonna be turned into a TV series or movie. Take for example, let's say Need for Speed, the very well-known racing game. If this one gets turned into a movie, then I believe that it should have they should create a brand new character, or a character specific for the game. Mainly because the character you use in the Need for Speed games is basically you. He doesn't have. Well, you do some games you do create your own character, or in other games you basically play as a nobody. You don't even see his face. So I do believe that some games, when they are turned into movies, need to have like a brand new character, someone completely new who they put into this kind of story. And for some games, I believe they have to stick with the characters within the game itself. Take for example, like God of War. If you're gonna have a God of War series or movie, then you gotta have the main character Kratos within it. If you're gonna have, let's say, a Resident Evil movie, then you need the main characters to be in that movie or in that TV series. Getting back to Resident Evil. Resident Evil now, I think it's the only video game series that I know that it has so many movies, and none of those movies succeed. Mainly because they create a whole new and original character for the movies, and don't stick to the ones that are in the game, or the ones that are very well known in the game. Sure, they do appear in some of the movies. Absolutely agree with you, but they are not faithful to the source material, which absolutely sucks, and it ruins the movie itself. So I do believe that if you're gonna make a movie or a series on some games that focus a lot on the main character, or has a beloved and well-known main character, then you should stick with the characters in the game. If the game itself doesn't specifically have a main character, let's say the character is you. Take for example, I don't know, like Dragon Age Inquisition, or the recently released Dragon's Dogma. The character is basically you, so you can go and create a whole new character for this movie or TV series. It could work better for it like that. So I do believe it depends on the game itself that you're gonna turn into a movie or a series.
I like how you put that there. It's spot on. You can't make a God of War series and not have the God of War in it. It just, you can't do that. How would that even work? It's called God of War. You need to add Kratos. There's no option. You have to add him. The movie is called God of War. It's like The Witcher. You have to have Geralt in it because he is The Witcher. But when you mention things like Dragon Age, as you did just then, Dragon Age isn't about the character that you play as. The title of that game is about the age of dragons, and what happened during that time period and what's going on in that area. You can play around with that. That's world space. That's not a character point where it's about a certain character. That isn't that, like you say, you make your own character in that and you explore the world according to that story that character went on. But that isn't Dragon Age. Dragon Age is the world. And you could, in theory, you could make a series about Dragon Age. That would work because, for example, you just have to create the world correctly. You don't have to create the character that you play as. You could do what you like with that. That's completely optional to whatever you want. It's a whole playground worth of space there. I think they did something quite similar for Mass Effect, considering for BioWare, where they did like an animation cartoon thing of James Varga, who was one of the characters that's aboard your ship in that game. But he's not the main character of that game. You are Shepard. You play as the main character. But James Varga is his own separate little series. As far as I'm aware, I think that's a thing. But yeah, that's just that's something quite interesting. What are your thoughts, Blue Fox? Considering, because like the games that you've chosen, Mario and Sonic, they would generally have to be Mario and Sonic, wouldn't they?
Oh, it's yeah. For those two examples specifically, it's pretty hard to make a Mario movie without Mario or a Sonic movie without Sonic. Or
you could
let's
get
say
away,
or a Zelda movie without Link and Zelda. I mean, it's
yeah.
but at the same time, I would see the scenario where perhaps the world of the game is so big that you can set it in the same world but not having the same characters. So I have an example the other way around. So Star Wars, right? Star Wars has the 9 movies, tons of TV series, and some video games. And one of these video games that it's going to release this year, I think it's called Outlaws, the one from Ubisoft, which looks half decent. It's still a Ubisoft game, so no high ups, but still, it's still a Star Wars game nonetheless. That game has different characters from the TV series and the movies. It's fully original characters, fully original sidekicks, and yeah, I mean, some planets may be rehashed and maybe some characters may reappear, but in generally speaking, it's using different characters, different main characters. And I think that makes sense because the world of Star Wars is so big that instead of using the same characters and use them in every single story you do, you want to have different characters for different stories. So in this sense, I would say that, hypothetically, if there was the Elder Scrolls Netflix series, I wouldn't disagree if they chose to make a whole new cast of characters, set it in a different part of Skyrim or different part of the whole empire, of the whole continent. I mean, it can still work. I mean, it's again, it's a bit different in this case because in this case, as you said for Dragon Age, it's the world that's the character and not the characters themselves. So if they really want to focus on this is the world and we're making a story in this world, then yeah, it doesn't matter. But usually, at least for the big examples that we've saw recently with The Last of Us, with I think also Fallout and the Mario movie and whatnot, it's usually you do want to have some characters recurring because those are a great part of what makes narrative in video games in the first place. So you want to have that link, that connection.
True. You know what? I'm going to pass this over back to you in just a second. So be prepared. But I'm going to give like a little extra bit of question that I'm thinking compared to, let's say, because I know that what's the movie? No, it's not. It's a series. I was thinking of Halo, and I was also thinking of Dragon Age at the same time. Whereas Dragon Age is a game with swords, just like, I don't know, Star Wars is a game. No, sorry, Star Wars is a base around lightsabers and stuff like that. Whereas Halo is a very gun shooty game. It's a lot of heavy gun FPS first person shooter. There's a lot of that in it. Do games like Star Wars and where you can create Jedis and Dragon Age, where you could like create like like it's a world base and you could create a character in that world. Do you think it makes better movies as in such that way, or TV series better in that way, rather than FPS? Because I think FPS shooters turned into series might be a bit more trickier to make an audience like it, because it's a lot of guns in that. But what are your thoughts?
So you're saying a movie in first person?
No, not a movie in first person, but the game that's based around first person shooting for the majority of it.
Oh, well, I think it can still work. I mean, one of the examples I brought was BioShock, which is a game that's played in the first person. So it can still work, but you're right in the sense it would be a bit of a different experience, because when you play BioShock Infinite, you play as the Wit, but I mean, you never see Booker. I mean, yeah, you see some reflections, you see the flashbacks, but you never, I mean, 99% of the time when you're playing the game, you're seeing your guns and the people around you, which also is an important narrative aspect, because the game, it's about, yes, Booker the Wit, but it's also, and most importantly, about Elizabeth. So the fact that the game is in first person highlights the fact that you're seeing the story of Elizabeth and you're interacting with her and doing everything to save her, and then all the things that happen later, which I'm not going to spoil. So if you make a TV adaptation of that, then yeah, both of the characters have to be on screen, because you cannot make a movie in first person. I think that would be a bit nauseatic after a while. So would that change the message of the series? So is the series not about Elizabeth, but about the two? It's an interesting dynamic. I haven't thought of it before you brought this example up. I think it's possible for sure, but it's the TV and the movie makers have to be careful into transcribing what's the focus of the game and what's the focus on the movie that they're making based on the game. Is it the character itself, or is it what the character sees?
True.
I do have to say, Blue Fox, I gotta be completely honest with you here. If they're actually gonna make like a TV series or a movie on BioShock Infinite, I gotta say good luck to the writers and the creators of the show, because as someone who played the game myself, to this day, I still can't understand some of the story aspects of the game, especially the ending. It's just so complicated.
Neither do I.
It's so crazy.
It's
just I can't spoil it, because even if I spoil it, I don't think anyone can understand. It's very complicated.
But it's
I can't even spoil it, because I myself didn't understand the ending. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed some of the story, but then I just, whoa, what is going on? And I couldn't comprehend it. So yeah, I gotta say, good luck to the writers, good luck to the creators, because the story starts off very well, but by the end, it's like, what is going on, man? Like, I can't comprehend it, but still, good luck to the creators.
Good luck.
I do think if they go for BioShock 1, well, then it's good luck. That's it. Even BioShock 1, it's a little bit complicated in the story, because how the story begins and the character himself. BioShock 2 is BioShock is a complicated story. Believe me when I say BioShock is a complicated story. I watched a lot of videos and I still can't comprehend it.
That's why we're still waiting for BioShock 4, right? It's they still need to solve it up. No, but it is true, and it's an important thing that we will need to discuss now about the whole topic, is that some video games just are quite hard to transform into TV series and movies, because the way not much the facts that happen throughout the story, but the way they unveil the facts, the storytelling, so how the story is told, it's quite important that it is within a video game. It's there are a lot of video games that have a very unique twist, like the Stanley Parable, which is a game that focuses on you walking around this office, and every choice you make transforms the narrative in a very absurd and in a very chaotic way. That how do you even make it into a TV series or a movie? The whole point of the game works because you are playing as Stanley and you are making the actions that you're making to lead to these different scenarios. A movie, you don't make actions. You see what's happening on screen. There is no input. And this is important.
You sit in a movie theater with a buzzer in your hand, and Stanley gets to a thing, and the whole audience has to choose whether he goes left or right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Then you're making a video game at that point, right?
You're making a video game at that point.
It's true. But it is important. Also, I mean, now without going into very specific examples, all the RPGs where you have a character that can be evil or good or neutral, or they can choose to be with faction A and faction B, the Imperials, the Rebels, whatever you want to call them. It's quite hard to transform into a movie because you have to pick a side. The main character has to do something. They can't do both. The bad person and the good person. They can't do both factions. They can't do both quests or whatever is happening. So I think there are some games that just don't really need to be made into TV series or movies because they would just be less. I mean, imagine playing seeing a movie of like Minecraft or whatever, right? You would see one story, but it's clearly not the video game because the video game has a story, quote unquote, but it's not about that. It's about gaming. It's about you being able to build whatever. So I think there are some games that definitely don't need to have an adaptation, and if they do, they'll probably flop. So
Yeah. Okay. You know what? That leads me into my next question, which is, I'm going to go with Camazoid for this one. What elements can you do in a TV series or movie that you can't get away with doing in a game? And if you can't think of any, I've got one myself particularly lined up.
There is something that I can say.
Okay, go for it.
Something that you can do in a movie or specifically a TV series, I can say this here, is expand upon the backstory of the main character.
Okay, yeah.
Take this for example. One of my favorite series of all time is God of War. And right now we heard that the God of War is going to have a TV series. Now, I don't know about a lot of people or if anybody listening to this. The TV series, I think it's going to be about the 2018 God of War game. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be bad or anything. I hope that it's going to be a great series and it's going to be faithful to the game itself. But I think that shouldn't have been the direction that they should have went for as a TV series for a God of War. Because one thing that they haven't expanded upon or they haven't opened upon with the God of War games, and more specifically with Kratos himself as the character, is his backstory. And what I mean by backstory is his days as a Spartan general, as he grew in the land of Sparta. They haven't expanded upon that. And even if they did open upon Kratos' good old days as a Spartan, they basically just did it as some dialogue with other characters or a little bit of cutscenes that share few glimpses or a few things about Kratos' days in Sparta. And I feel like this could be very expanded upon in a TV series, which is, for me, my idea for a God of War TV series is a series that expand upon Kratos' days in Sparta, how he grew up to become a Spartan general, how the battles he did as a Spartan general. There are even very old comics that tell some stories of Kratos and Sparta before he became the God of War, before he became the servant of Ares and obtained the Blades of Chaos. There's a lot of stories of Kratos' battles in Sparta as the Spartan general, the commander of 1,000 Spartans. And I think that they can expand upon and they can do that in a TV series that can tell the stories of Kratos' days in Sparta. The battle against the barbarians, the battle against the barbarian leader, or for him to obtain the healing fruit to save his daughter, how he met his first wife, Lysandra. A little more about his relationship with his daughter, the first daughter, Calliope, the stories of his battles and his conquest as a Spartan general. They can tell those stories and expand upon them in a TV series. And this is what I believe. I don't know about other people and their thoughts. If they go on that direction, I think it's much more better that rather than just to retell the stories of the games in a TV series, because I want to know more about Kratos' past, and it's so much more interesting than to watch something that I already know. because I think to me it's very more interesting to show him something that he doesn't know, but it is within the character, than to just give him something that he already seen or played in just in a, let's say, movie format or a series format. So that is what I believe that they can do in a TV series and not in a game. Let's say expand upon the backstory of a main character.
Yeah.
And that's how I would do it.
And I like that. Yeah, you can get away with doing more backstory, and and it's just, there's a lot of area for that. One of the things that I was thinking of that you can do in a TV series or a movie that you can't do in a video game. Within a video game, quite often you quite often know who the bad guy is. And you can quite often, you're chasing down this direction that's going to lead to wherever the next stage is, to get to the next stage, to get to the next stage. However, because you're playing as that character, you take a lot of that story role on yourself. In a series or as a game, that can be, there doesn't have to be one singular main character. You can follow the storyline of multiple different characters and to see how they all fit in the same world together at different parts. That's something you can probably get away with in a series that you can't quite do in a game. You can probably, you could probably get away with doing it in some video games. Like, for example, Detroit Becoming Human. You play as different characters in that game. But there's only very few games that you can actually get away with doing that. Whereas, big open world games like Dragon Age, you could do a series in that, but you could create more than one main character and follow different storylines along. It could be quite interesting how you could mess that around. You could do backstory and you could do different character stuff. There's a lot of stuff you could do it. You could add in certain story content that just makes it feel real, as Camazoid said, more backstory. Like, you could really emphasize it a lot better in a TV series. Blue Fox, what about you? What's your idea on this? Do you think?
You could, and you should, because of course in a game not only you're busy with the narrative aspect, but you're mainly busy with the gameplay aspect. So you cannot take the attention of the gamer away too much from the game itself. I mean, for some games, of course, there is more narrative than gameplay, but even in those games, you still have to play. So in this regard, the movies and TV series can really make emphasis to expand upon the character, not by action, so not much by fighting the same 4 enemies along 10 hours, but to actually expand on their past, on their interests, on their conflicts, and overcome. So, I mean, of course, movies and TV series still have action scenes. Of course, it's not only about talking, but the action that you see in movies, it's a percentage much lower than the action you usually see in video games. Because again, in video games you play. So in video games, you might redo a level multiple times. You might free roam around and fight off random enemies without any real purpose. You can do a lot of things that are not strictly linked to the narrative aspect. But in a TV or in a movie, you really have to link it up. You really have to bring the story forward. You're not gonna watch a TV series where nothing happens but fights, because it's cool to see fights in movies and TVs, but you still want to see the characters progress and learn and discuss and achieve whatever they're trying to achieve. So yes, in this regard, I fully agree with Kamisoy that TV and movies have the chance to expand narratively upon the characters they're introduced. But having said that, of course, the advantage video games have is that video games not only tend to be longer in length, because there are games that can last you 50, 60, 70 hours, but they really make you connect to the main protagonist that you're playing with. Because, one thing is to see a character fighting off a big enemy in a movie, but one thing is to be that person and fighting you, the big enemy, in the real scenario where you find yourself into, in the arena or in the situation the character is in. So in a game like Dark Souls, you're fighting ridiculously hard enemies, and you really feel it because you're fighting and you're dying and you're fighting and you're dying. And when you finally succeed, you truly feel as you have succeeded, you have achieved everything you had to achieve. In a movie, yeah, the character is doing that. Of course, you're cheering for the main character. The character may take some hits, but eventually they'll still win, quote unquote, on their first try. You don't in a video game. So the beauty that's within video game narration is that you are the protagonist. You as a player are the protagonist, and these movies cannot emulate, or at least they cannot do it to the same degree that you're doing it in video games.
That is true. That is true. There's often that feeling in yeah, I'll wrap around on that, because in a video game there's that feeling of succession, whereas you defeat the bad guy, you did it, you get the good pat on the back. There's that thing that hits that goes like, yes, I did that. In a series, you don't really get that. You are cheering for the main character to do that, but at the end of the day, it is the character inside the series or the movie that does that. So you don't really get that, yes, I did it feeling as much as you would inside a video game. However, one of the things I do like about a series, which I will add, you do get this kind of in games as well, but I think this applies more in series, because you're following along as the main character. The main character in a series is your eyes and ears into that universe. And I like the hints of when there's a mystery inside a series, and slowly but surely, as they start uncovering the mystery or the plot line or whatever happens, when they unlock the mystery, do you really start going, oh, I understand now? But you do that along with the same as the main character. If they do it very well, you and the main character of that series realize things at the same time. Mystery is a very key element when it comes to series, and I think it really works when it turns from a video game into a movie. But that's just me. Right, I'll get down to these final two questions, and I'm gonna go with Camazoid first for this first question. So it's, do you think video game adaptations have the potential to elevate the status of a video game?
This is probably an easy answer. I think absolutely. Take, for example, the recent one. We all know the situation of Cyberpunk 2077, the rough launch it had, and then and how many people gave up on the game and just abandoned it, but the developers kept updating the game and fixing and basically trying to make their comeback. And a year later, the anime, which is Cyberpunk Edge Runners, Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners released, which is an absolutely an amazing anime. I heard many people love the story, love the characters, all of that, which led so many people who loved the anime go back to the game, and so many people who enjoyed the anime but don't know the game purchase the game and try it out. And of course, after the updates and fixes, the game is completely something else, which blew up. The game itself blew up and succeeded exponentially, literally 2 years later. So I do believe that a well-made, but I should probably say this again, a well-made TV adaptation, movie or anime based on a game can help the game itself further succeed. So again, I need to emphasize a well-made adaptation, because we all know a lot of adaptations are either just good or very bad.
That is true. If it's well made, and it really does emphasize on that whole fact of what the game is, and they do it good, it's gonna make the people want to play the game if they've done it correctly. I mean, with Assassin's Creed, it was a good movie, but it really never made me really want to play Assassin's Creed. It didn't have that feel to it. However, I can see what you mean when you say like Cyberpunk. If it's good and it does it correctly and it really shows off of what that game world's about, people are going to go, I just have the feeling I just want to play the game now. And just really emphasizes of sales and making people want to play the game more. And if that's the case of what Cyberpunk does, then Cyberpunk, well done. You've now made more people interested in your game.
Same happened to Fallout, by the way. I opened Steam today, and the first thing that pop up is that Fallout 76 was on sale, but like really on sale. We're talking like 80% off or something like that. And you do wonder, right? You say, "Oh, what are the odds that the series came out a couple of days ago and people are enjoying it, and now it's in sale?" And now, like Cyberpunk, I mean, not to the same degree, but Fallout 76 did receive many updates and many content and many bug fixes. It's not a good game from what I've heard, but I've heard it's playable. I've heard it's all right now. And yeah, again, after when did it come out originally? Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah, after that much time, people are reevaluating it because they're saying, hey, it's not half bad. It's they've improved it. They heard the comments, they've heard the feedback, and we're playing it because the TV series is out. And this will happen, and that's the reason why I think more and more we're seeing TV adaptations and movie adaptations, because game developers are realizing that not only they can sell the license to make a movie about their games and thus making money, because of course if you're a studio and you want to make a movie about Mario, Nintendo is going to ask for money. But if the movie goes well, you make money out of the movie and out of the products you sell out of the movie, like the video games. For the Mario, it was Mario Wonders, which a lot of people have bought. I mean, of course, it's a Mario game, so a lot of people would have bought it anyways. But more people, maybe they were reminded about Mario. Maybe they thought, oh yeah, Mario is in my childhood, I don't play it anymore. But after seeing the movie, they said, yeah, you know what? Why not, right? It's a fun game. You see the Mario Kart scene and you say, hey, I had fun playing Mario Kart. It's a game for everybody, right? So let's play some Mario Kart. It's free advertisement, and if it goes well, you even make money out of it. It's win-win.
Oh my, I really hope Ubisoft doesn't make a series on Skull and Bones. Could you imagine?
I mean,
the Skull and Bones. Game failed. Nobody likes it. Let's make a series about it.
I mean, nobody likes it today because it's an awful game, but if they patch it up somehow in 3 years' time,
and then make a series about it,
not impossible. I would be surprised, but no, I mean, but Skull and Bones is it's rotten at the core, so I don't think it's gonna be the case. But for let's say a more mediocre game that was released recently, the what's it called? The Suicide Squad, the one nobody liked. Yeah,
I like how Kamazoi's in the background going, nope, this is not, certain things won't work.
I mean, it's an awful game, but I mean,
it's okay. I played Skull and Bones. Yeah, there's something very interesting in Skull and Bones that I'm just going to mention before we move on to other things. And the thing about Skull and Bones, for me personally, I'm not sure if you know this or not, there are different size ships that you can drive in the game. There's small, medium, and large. Large ships aren't in the game yet. Just putting it out there. It's
4A's title, they said. Quadruple A title.
Quadruple A title can't do big ships.
I've heard. It's like I've heard from a reviewer. It's Ubisoft spent 10 years to develop a PvP game without the PvP. Amazing.
They made a pirate game without all the boats in it.
It's you cannot make this up. It's
not.
They should make a TV series.
I wish I was lying. I wish I was joking.
Not about Skull and Bones. About the development of Skull and Bones. I would see it. It would.
If it was 2 or 3 years development, I'd be kind of, okay, yeah, right, okay, well, there's certain elements, it's a big game, they got to do that. But 10 years? Come on. Is that what it is?
I think it was, I think they started working on Skull and Bone. Officially, they started after Black Flag, after 1 year. But Assassin's Creed Black Flag, it's a game of like 2014. That's 10 years.
That game's good.
Bones, they announced it in like a more like official manner later on, but like they announced it like in 2017, something like so. It's still 7 years. I mean, yes, I was still in high school, maybe even middle school. It's crazy. It's crazy time.
Yeah. Some of the people that weren't there now weren't there when they first originally started. Right. Okay. Moving on to the last question before we get ahead of ourselves. All right. Okay. Should a game have sequels before it turns into a movie or TV series? Going over to Blue Fox for this one, because I think this is a pretty interesting question for myself.
It's well, let's try to make it a bit quick because it's we've been here quite a while. But the short answer, I'd say not necessarily. I think if a game it's a success and it's only, I mean, Cyberpunk is a game that has no sequels, it has no prequels, no nothing, and they still got a TV series out of it. I mean, of course, it has to be a big game. It cannot be a indie title of. But then again, I mean, Cuphead got a TV series, and Cuphead is a fairly small 10-hour game. So no, not really. No, you don't really need a sequel. I mean, of course, the bigger the world, the more characters you have, the more sceneries you have, the more scenarios you have. So of course, it's easier to make a movie about Mario that has 40 years of gaming than to make a movie about Cyberpunk. But definitely you can both. You can do both. Why not?
Blue Fox, does Zelda have a TV series or movie?
They are making one. They had like a one in the 90s, but nobody liked it. But I think they're making one.
I feel like it would make a good movie, considering what we've got so far.
But nothing confirmed yet.
You kind of want Netflix to take over it in a way, because I'll be honest with you, when it comes to Netflix, at least you know it's going to get a good, decent 4 seasons out of something. If it's on Amazon, it's potentially you're going to get the first 2 seasons, and the last season you're going to have to wait for a while.
But the last Fallout series is made by Amazon, right? So
Yeah. First 2 seasons are going to go very well. It's the last. It's if they make 3 seasons of it, the 3rd season will always take longer.
It's
if you're on Disney,
it depends on the director and the actors and everything. But yeah, I hope well for the God of War series.
If it's on Disney, you'll get the first 2 seasons, and then Disney will have a discussion going about they need to save space on their app, so they should close down your next season. that's kind of I think that's how Disney do it these days, because I keep seeing things disappearing on Disney more than I see things appearing. Anyway, to wrap everything up, I just want to mention that 2 of the series that we've actually been talking about are actually in the, well, one of them's near release, and that is the because Blue Fox mentioned Sonic. The actual series of Knuckles that's from Sonic is getting released very, very soon, in a few days' time. And of course, we've also had the Fallout series that I've launched this month. If you do want to go check out any of those series, just a highlight for those particular series right there. However, there is loads of them, and I'll probably note a few down that we've mentioned inside the podcast, inside the description down below. If you've got a video game that you think would be good turned into a movie or a TV series or an anime, write it down in the comments. We'd all love to hear it, and we'd like to know what your opinions are. However, if you do want to go check out my friends' channels, you can check out Blue Fox's channel on the links in the description, and you can check out Camazoid's channel also in the links in the description. And that's it from me, and we'll be slowly trekking up in the month of May as we lead to the summer of gaming. I cannot wait for it. Can't wait to check out all the games that are coming out this summer, so that's happening quite soon. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on another Jump Inside video. Goodbye.
Until next time.
Yeah.